I was standing in the hospital corridor when I heard the first mother scream. Then another. Then another. Within minutes, the entire pediatric ward was filled with the sound of parents wailing, doctors running, nurses shouting emergency codes. 53 children had collapsed at a birthday party. 53. My daughter was one of them. She was lying in the ICU, tubes coming out of her small body, machines beeping, her face so pale she looked like she was barely there. The doctors kept saying the same thing over and over. Poisoning. Drug overdose. In children aged 3 to 12. At a birthday party. How does that even happen? How do 53 children get poisoned at what was supposed to be a celebration? My name is Chinyo, and I'm about to tell you the story that made me completely rethink how I protect my child. The story of how one man's reckless behavior and addiction destroyed the peace of 50 families in one afternoon. How a birthday cake meant for 3-year-old twins became the centerpiece of a nightmare. How parents who thought they were giving their children a fun Saturday ended up watching them fight for their lives in hospital beds. And how the man responsible for all of it ran away and was never held accountable, leaving us to pick up the pieces of our shattered lives and our empty bank accounts. If you have children, if you love children, if you ever send your kids to parties, you need to hear this story. Because what happened to us can happen to anyone. It started with a simple invitation. A colorful card that my 7-year-old daughter, Amora, brought home from school one Friday afternoon in March 2022. She was jumping up and down with excitement, waving the card in my face, shouting, "Mommy, Mommy, Ada invited me to her twins' birthday party. Can I go? Please, please, please." Ada was one of the mothers in our children's school, a private primary school in Lekki, Lagos. Her twins, a boy and a girl named Chidi and Adis, were turning 3 years old. Ada was known in the school community as a friendly woman, always smiling, always organizing events, always volunteering for school activities. She was the type of mother who remembered every child's name, who brought cupcakes for classroom celebrations, who organized playdates and helped new parents feel welcome in the school community. Her husband, Ben, was less visible. I had seen him a few times during school pickups, always looking tired, always in a hurry, never really interacting with other parents. He would pull up in his car, wait for Ada and the twins with the engine running, and leave immediately. Some mothers had commented on it, saying he seemed unfriendly or antisocial, but I didn't think much of it. Every family has their own dynamics. Some people are just more private than others. Some husbands work long hours and are tired. I gave him the benefit of the doubt, as we all should. The invitation was beautifully designed, printed on glossy cardstock with cartoon characters and bright colors. It said the party would be held at their home in Victoria Garden City on Saturday, March 19th, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. It promised bouncy castles, face painting, magic shows, games, food, and drinks. Everything a child could dream of. There was even a note at the bottom that said, "Parents are welcome to stay and enjoy refreshments while the children play." Amora begged me all weekend to confirm she could go. Every few hours, she would ask again. "Mommy, did you say yes? Can I go? Please say yes." She showed me the invitation at least 20 times, pointing out all the activities listed, asking me what a magician does, whether face painting hurts, if she could jump really high on a bouncy castle. Her excitement was infectious. I finally said yes on Sunday evening, and she jumped around the living room squealing with joy. How could I say no? It was just a birthday party. What could possibly go wrong? That week leading up to the party, I ran into other mothers from the school everywhere. At the supermarket, at the salon, at church, and everyone was talking about the party. Ada had invited almost every child in the kindergarten and primary 1 to 3 classes. The guest list was enormous, probably close to 60 or 70 children from the school alone, plus children from her neighborhood and family friends. People were impressed by her generosity. Ada is really going all out for this party, one mother said to me at the salon while we sat under the dryers. I heard she hired 3 different entertainment companies. The woman has money, oh. Another mother at the supermarket, while we both reached for the same pack of party favors, said, I'm thinking of just giving cash as a gift. With so many children invited, she probably doesn't need more toys. We laughed and chatted about gift-giving etiquette, about whether our children were excited, about what time we planned to arrive. At church that Sunday, a group of mothers stood in the parking lot after service, discussing whether they would stay at the party or just drop off their kids and come back later. I have so many errands to run, one mother said. I think I'll drop Tob and come back at 6. I'm staying, another mother replied. I want to see what this party looks like. Plus, free food. We all laughed. I was planning to stay. I always stayed at parties when Amora was younger, but lately, I had become more relaxed. She was 7 now, old enough to be without me for a few hours. But something in my gut told me to stay at this one. Maybe it was mother's intuition. Maybe it was just coincidence. Whatever it was, I'm grateful I listened to it, because if I hadn't been there, I don't know how much worse things could have been. The excitement built throughout the week. Amora talked about the party every single day. She planned her outfit 3 days in advance, changing her mind twice. She practiced her party manners, saying a please and thank you to imaginary hosts. She asked me what gift we should buy for the twins, and we spent an afternoon at ShopRite selecting educational toys, a puzzle for Chidi and a stacking toy for Addis. On Friday evening, the day before the party, I ran into Ada at the school gate during pickup. She looked excited but also stressed. There were lines under her eyes that hadn't been there before. Are you ready for tomorrow? I asked her, smiling. She laughed, but it sounded tired. I'm trying to be ready. The decorations are being set up tonight. The food is being prepared. I just hope everything goes smoothly. I'm sure it will be wonderful, I assured her. Amora hasn't stopped talking about it all week. Ada smiled warmly. I'm so glad she's coming. The twins are so excited. They don't really understand what a birthday party is yet, but they love seeing their friends. We chatted for a few more minutes about party logistics, and then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face changed slightly, tension appearing around her eyes. I have to take this, she said apologetically. See you tomorrow. I watched her walk away, phone pressed to her ear, her voice rising slightly in what sounded like an argument. I caught only a few words, told you not to. And, the children. Before she was out of earshot. I thought nothing of it at the time. Every mother has stressful phone calls. Every couple has disagreements, especially when planning a large event. I assumed she was just dealing with party stress, maybe a vendor who was running late or a family member who was being difficult. I should have wondered more. I should have asked if everything was okay. But hindsight is a cruel teacher. On the morning of March 19th, I woke up early, before my alarm even went off. The sun was streaming through my bedroom window, and I could already hear Amora moving around in her room. When I opened her door, she was already dressed in her pink party dress, trying to tie her shoes by herself. Mommy. I'm ready, she announced proudly. I laughed. Baby, the party isn't until 2 p.m. It's only 7 a.m. Her face fell with disappointment. But I want to go now. We spent the morning doing normal Saturday activities, breakfast, cartoons, a quick trip to the market. But Amara was vibrating with excitement the entire time, constantly asking what time it was, how many more hours until the party, whether we were going to be late. I prepared her carefully. I redid her hair in neat cornrows with colorful beads that clicked when she moved her head. I made sure her dress was perfectly pressed, her shoes were polished, her socks were clean and white. I packed a small bag with baby wipes, hand sanitizer, a change of clothes just in case, and her inhaler. She had mild asthma, and I always carried it even though she rarely needed it. At 1:30 p.m., we got into the car. Amara sat in the back seat, clutching the wrapped gift, singing to herself. I drove carefully through Lagos traffic, which was surprisingly light for a Saturday afternoon. As we got closer to Victoria Garden City, I noticed other cars with balloons tied to their mirrors, clearly also heading to the party. When we arrived at Ada's house at 1:50 p.m., I was immediately impressed. It was a beautiful detached duplex with a large compound, cream-colored walls, and a well-maintained garden. But today, it had been transformed into something magical, at least through a child's eyes. The entire front of the house was decorated with balloons in rainbow colors, twisted into arches and columns. Banners with "Happy Birthday Chidi and Adis" hung across the gate and along the fence. Colorful streamers fluttered in the light breeze. In the spacious compound, 2 enormous bouncy castles had been set up, one shaped like a princess castle in pink and purple, the other like a superhero fortress in red and blue. There was a small raised stage decorated with more balloons, presumably for the entertainers. Long tables covered in bright tablecloths were arranged along one side of the compound, already laden with food: jollof rice, fried rice, chicken, meat pies, small chops, fruit salad, and rows of drinks. Another table held an impressive display of cupcakes, cookies, candy, and other sweets. The birthday cake itself, still covered and waiting for the grand cutting ceremony, stood on its own special table draped in gold fabric. Parents and children were already arriving in streams. Cars lined up along the street, and a security guard Ada had hired directed parking. Children in their party clothes, frilly dresses, smart shirts, shiny shoes, ran excitedly toward the bouncy castles while their parents called after them to wait, to greet the host first, to not run so fast. Ada was standing at the gate, welcoming guests. She was wearing a beautiful Ankara outfit, a fitted dress with a peplum top and a matching head wrap, in bright blue and gold patterns. The twins were dressed in matching Ankara outfits in the same fabric. Chidi wore a little shirt and short set, while Adis wore a dress with ruffles. They looked adorable, though both seemed slightly overwhelmed by all the attention and noise. "Chinyo. Amara. Welcome, welcome." Ada called out when she saw us, her face lighting up with genuine warmth. She gave me a quick hug and bent down to greet Amara. "Thank you for coming, sweetheart. The bouncy castle is right there, but first say hello to Chidi and Adis." Amara, suddenly shy in the face of all the activity, pressed close to my side and whispered hello to the twins before thrusting the wrapped gift toward Ada. We placed it on the gift table, which was already overflowing with colorfully wrapped boxes and bags. As we walked further into the compound, I looked around for Ben. I wanted to greet him, to thank him for hosting such an elaborate party. But I didn't see him anywhere. "Ada, where is Ben?" I asked casually. I wanted to say hello. Ada's smile flickered for just a moment before returning to full brightness. "Oh, he's inside with some friends. They are helping with last-minute arrangements in the kitchen and making sure everything is ready. He'll come out later." Something in her tone made me look at her more closely. There was a tightness around her eyes, a forced quality to her cheerfulness. But before I could say anything, another family arrived and she turned to greet them, her hostess smile family in place. I shrugged it off. Party hosting is stressful. Maybe they had argued that morning about something. Maybe Ben was the type who got anxious around large crowds and needed a few minutes to prepare himself. Every family is different. I found a seat under one of the large canopies that had been set up for parents, joining a group of mothers I knew from school. We settled into comfortable conversation, watching our children explore the party space with wide eyes and excited squeals. More families continued to arrive over the next 20 minutes until the compound was truly packed with people. I tried to count the children at one point and stopped at 50, knowing there were more I couldn't see. Some parents stayed, filling the seats under the canopies, accepting drinks and small chops from the servers Ada had hired for the day. Other parents dropped their children off and left, promising to return by 6 p.m. One father I knew slightly from school, a tall man named Emeka, dropped off his 6-year-old daughter and said to me, "Please keep an eye on Chioma if you can. I have a business meeting that I couldn't reschedule. I'll be back by 5:30. Of course, I assured him, watching as Chioma ran off to join a group of girls near the face painting station. This was normal. This was what parents did. We looked out for each other's children. We trusted each other. We were a community. At exactly 2 p.m., the party officially began. An MC arrived, a young man in his 20s wearing a shiny suit and carrying a microphone and portable speaker. He had the kind of energy that you either loved or found exhausting, and the children loved it. "Hello boys and girls," he shouted into the microphone, his voice booming across the compound. "Are you ready to party?" The children screamed yes, in unison, jumping up and down. "I can't hear you." I said, "Are you ready to party?" "Why yes, they screamed even louder, and the MC laughed, clearly pleased with himself. He introduced himself as MC Funnybones, which made all the children giggle, and explained the schedule for the day. First would be free playtime on the bouncy castles while face painting was available. Then organized games, musical chairs, treasure hunt, dancing competition. Then the entertainers would perform. And finally, the big moment, cutting the birthday cake. The children scattered immediately. Some ran to the bouncy castles, pulling off their shoes and clambering inside. I watched Amara climb into the princess castle, her face pure joy as she bounced higher and higher, her beaded cornrows bouncing with her. Other children lined up for face painting, debating loudly whether they wanted to be butterflies, lions, superheroes, or princesses. The parents under the canopy settled in, chatting, laughing, taking photos. Servers moved among us offering drinks, Chapman, Martina, soft drinks, and plates of small chops. The atmosphere was festive, relaxed. This was what childhood should be, I thought. Joy, friendship, celebration. For the next hour, the party was everything it should have been. The children played, their laughter filling the air. The MC organized games that got everyone involved. Musical chairs turned into delightful chaos, with children scrambling for seats while parents cheered. The treasure hunt had children running all over the compound, searching for hidden toys and candy that Ada had cleverly placed everywhere. Amara was having the time of her life. I took dozens of photos on my phone, her jumping on the bouncy castle, her face painted as a beautiful butterfly with pink and purple wings across her cheeks, her holding hands with her school friends as they danced to a children's song the MC was playing. I posted a few photos to my WhatsApp status with the caption, "Saturday Vibes." Within minutes, I got responses from friends, "So cute, she looks so happy, enjoy." One friend who had moved to Abuja wrote, "I miss Lagos parties. Oh. Nothing like this here." I felt content. Blessed, even. My daughter was healthy, happy, surrounded by friends, making beautiful childhood memories. This is what I work so hard for, to give her experiences like this, to give her a childhood filled with joy. I should have been watching more carefully. I should have been paying attention to what was happening inside the house. But I was relaxed, comfortable, trusting. And that trust almost cost me everything. While we parents sat outside enjoying the party, while our children played and laughed, something dangerous was happening inside Ada's house. Something that none of us knew about. Something that would turn this beautiful celebration into a nightmare. I only learned these details later, from Ada herself, from the police reports, from piecing together testimonies and evidence. But this is what was happening. Inside the kitchen, Ben and 4 of his friends were having their own party. These were not the kind of friends you bring around children. These were men Ada had complained about before to some of the mothers in private conversations I hadn't been part of but heard about later. Those men are bad news, Ada had told one mother weeks earlier. They drink all day. They smoke. I found drug paraphernalia in my house after they visit. I've begged Ben to stop seeing them, but he won't listen. Ada had specifically asked Ben not to invite these friends to the children's party. They had argued about it for days. But Ben had insisted. They're my friends, he had said. It's my children's birthday too. I have a right to celebrate with people I care about. What Ada didn't know, what none of us knew, was the extent of Ben's addiction problem. He wasn't just a social drinker or occasional user. Ben was a full addict. Tramadol, codeine, marijuana, and sometimes even harder substances. He had hidden it well from most people, but the signs had been there for those who looked closely. The weight loss. The mood swings. The financial problems. The way he avoided social situations where he might be scrutinized. On this day, the day of his children's 3rd birthday party, Ben decided to prepare something special for himself and his friends. In his drug-addled thinking, he believed he deserved to enjoy the day too. So he mixed up a large jug of what he and his friends called special juice, fruit juice mixed with crushed tramadol tablets, codeine syrup, and local gin called ogagoro. He made it strong. Very strong. This wasn't meant for sipping, this was meant to get him and his friends as high as possible, as quickly as possible. He filled a large transparent glass jug with this toxic mixture, added slices of orange and pineapple to make it look appealing and to mask the taste of the drugs, and set it on the kitchen counter. Then he and his 4 friends settled in to drink, laugh, and get high while a children's party happened just outside. Here's the critical mistake, the detail that would prove catastrophic: the kitchen had multiple jugs of drinks. There were jugs of pure fresh fruit juice meant for the children, orange juice, pineapple juice, mixed fruit juice. There were jugs of Chapman meant for the adults. And there was Ben's jug, the poison one. All the jugs looked similar. They were all transparent glass. They all had fruit floating in them for visual appeal. They were all sitting on the same counter in the kitchen. Ada had specifically asked Blessing, her house help, to keep the children's drinks separate and clearly marked. Blessing had done so, placing stickers on the children's juice jugs that said "kids only" in bold letters. But in the chaos of the party, with so many people coming in and out of the kitchen, with Ben and his friends moving things around, one of the jugs got moved. And the sticker got covered by a kitchen towel someone had carelessly tossed on the counter. Ben and his friends didn't think about the consequences of having drug-laced drinks in a house full of children. They were already high, already careless, already so deep in their addiction that basic safety didn't occur to them. They just wanted to get higher. Around 4 p.m., the MC announced it was time for the main event, cutting the birthday cake. Boys and girls, attention please. It's time to sing happy birthday to our special twins, Chidi and Adis. The children came running from all directions. Those who were on the bouncy castles jumped off and grabbed their shoes. Those who were playing games abandoned them immediately. Everyone gathered around the cake table, forming an excited, chattering semicircle. Ada appeared with the twins, one on each hip, both looking adorable but slightly sleepy. It had been a long, stimulating day for 3-year-olds. She set them down in front of the cake table, and 2 other family members helped steady them. The servers removed the cloth covering the cake, and everyone gasped. It was magnificent, 3 tiers of vanilla cake with buttercream frosting, decorated with intricate fondant figures of cartoon characters, flowers, and swirls. On the top tier, their names were spelled out in colorful letters, Chidi and Addis. Candles shaped like the number 3 stood proudly on either side. We parents pulled out our phones to record. The MC led everyone in singing the happy birthday song, and the compound filled with voices, off-key, enthusiastic, joyful. The twins looked confused by all the attention but pleased nonetheless. When the song ended, everyone cheered. Ada helped the twins blow out the candles. Though at 3 years old, they mostly just looked at the candles while Ada did the blowing. Everyone cheered again. Photos were snapped from every angle. Then Ada took a knife and made the ceremonial first cut in the cake. More cheers. More photos. Blessing. Ada called toward the house. Please come and serve the cake to the children. Blessing appeared immediately. She was a young woman, maybe 19 or 20 years old, who had been working for Ada's family for about 6 months. She was from a village in Edo State and sent most of her salary back home to help her younger siblings go to school. She was a sweet girl, hardworking, eager to please, always smiling. She had been helping with party preparations all morning and was tired but still energetic, happy to be part of something so festive. She brought out stacks of small paper plates and began serving slices of cake to the children, who lined up eagerly, their eyes wide with anticipation. Say thank you, parents called out to their children as they received their cake. Thank you, Auntie Blessing, the children chorused dutifully before running off to find places to sit and eat their cake. Amora received her slice and came running to me, cake already smudged on her cheek. Mommy, it's so sweet, she said happily, taking another big bite. I smiled and wiped her cheek with a napkin. Eat slowly, baby. Don't choke. The MC announced, now, who wants something to drink with their cake? Auntie Blessing will bring drinks for everyone. The children cheered. Of course they wanted drinks. Their mouths were full of sweet cake, and they were hot from playing all afternoon in the Lego sun. Blessing headed back to the kitchen to get drinks. The plan had been simple. She would pour fresh fruit juice from the clearly marked jugs into small plastic cups and serve them to the children. Simple. Safe. Straightforward. But when Blessing entered the kitchen, it was chaos. Ben and his 4 friends were in there, loud, laughing too hard at things that weren't funny, their movements clumsy and uncoordinated. They were already very high. The kitchen counter was cluttered. Multiple jugs sat there, some empty, some full. Kitchen towels were scattered around. Used cups and plates were stacked in the sink. Ben and his friends had been helping themselves to food throughout the party, making a mess. Blessing was flustered. The kitchen was supposed to be organized. She had organized it herself that morning. But now everything was confusion. She looked at the jugs on the counter, trying to identify which ones were for the children. She saw a full jug with orange and pineapple slices floating in it. It looked exactly like the fresh fruit juice she had prepared earlier. She didn't see the kids' only a sticker because it was covered by a towel. Is this the children's juice? She asked Ben, pointing to the jug. Ben was high. Very high. He barely looked at what she was pointing to. He waved his hand dismissively. Yeah, whatever. Just take it. Blessing picked up the jug. It was heavy, full. She carried it outside along with a tray of small plastic cups and began pouring. The liquid looked perfect, colorful, fruity, appealing. It had a slightly stronger smell than normal fruit juice, but with all the food smells from the party, Blessing didn't notice. The children certainly didn't notice. She moved through the crowd of children, filling cup after cup. Who wants juice? Who needs a drink? The children swarmed around her, holding out their little hands for cups. Me, they cried. I want some. Give me. Blessing poured generously. Some children drank their cups in one long gulp and asked for more. "Auntie, I want more juice. It's very sweet." Blessing smiled and poured refills. She was happy to see the children enjoying themselves. This was a good party. Everything was going well. By the time the jug was empty, over 50 children had consumed the poison drink. Some had drunk only a little, just a few sips. Some had drunk an entire cup. Some had drunk 2 cups. But all of them had ingested some amount of the toxic mixture of tramadol, codeine, and alcohol. Blessing brought the empty jug back to the kitchen, satisfied that she had done her job well. The children had their cake, they had their drinks, they were happy. She began washing dishes, humming to herself, thinking about how much tip money she might receive at the end of this successful party. She had no idea what she had just done. No idea that the jug she had used was not the children's juice. No idea that in approximately 15 to 20 minutes, those children would start showing signs of drug overdose. No idea that this beautiful party was about to become every parent's worst nightmare. Neither did any of us parents. We were still sitting under our canopies, chatting, laughing, watching our children eat cake and drink juice. Everything seemed perfect. Everything seemed safe. We had no idea our children had just been poisoned. It started so subtly that at first, no one noticed anything wrong. Around 4:20 p.m., about 15 minutes after the children had drunk the poison juice, a little boy named Ton sat down on the grass near the bouncy castle. His mother, who was sitting with our group, glanced over and called out, "Ton, come and sit properly on a chair." But Ton didn't respond. He just sat there, staring ahead. His mother frowned and stood up. "Ton, did you hear me?" She walked over to him and bent down. "Ton, what's wrong?" Ton turned to look at her, and his mother gasped. His eyes were glassy, unfocused, like he was looking through her rather than at her. His pupils were pinpoints, tiny. "Ton, can you hear me?" She touched his face, and his skin was clammy, cool. Then, without warning, Ton vomited. Violently. All over himself, all over the grass. His mother screamed and grabbed him, trying to clean him with her hands, calling his name frantically. That scream caught everyone's attention. Parents turned to look. We saw Ton's mother holding her son, saw the vomit, saw the panic on her face. "What happened?" someone called out. "I don't know. He's not responding properly. Something is wrong." And then, as if on cue, it started happening everywhere. A little girl near the face painting station suddenly slumped sideways off her chair. Her older brother caught her before she hit the ground. "Ngozi! Ngozi, wake up." He was shaking her, but her head lowered to the side, her eyes rolling back. Another child, a boy of about 6, stopped mid-run toward the bouncy castle and simply crumpled to the ground like someone had cut his strings. His father ran to him, shouting his name. More children started sitting down where they stood, their movements sluggish, confused. Some were crying, saying they felt dizzy, saying they felt sick. Some were vomiting. Some were closing their eyes and couldn't seem to open them again. Within 5 minutes, the scene transformed from a joyful children's party to absolute chaos. Parents were running to their children, picking them up, calling their names desperately. Children who moments ago had been playing and laughing were now unresponsive or barely conscious. "What's happening?" parents were screaming. "What's wrong with them?" The MC had stopped his music. The entertainer stood frozen, unsure what to do. Everyone was shouting at once, a cacophony of fear and confusion. I saw Amora across the compound, sitting near the bouncy castle. She was tilting to one side, her eyes half closed. My heart stopped. I ran to her, my legs moving before my brain fully processed what I was seeing. "Amora! Amora!" I dropped to my knees beside her and grabbed her shoulders. She opened her eyes slowly, like it took enormous effort. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice slurred. "Mommy, I feel funny. I'm so sleepy." "No, no, no, baby, stay awake. Stay with me." I patted her cheeks gently, trying to keep her conscious. But her eyes kept sliding closed. Her body was limp in my arms, heavy in a way that terrified me. All around me, the same scene was playing out. Mothers and fathers holding their children, trying to wake them up, trying to understand what was happening. Some children were convulsing. Some were vomiting repeatedly. Some had simply gone completely limp and unconscious. Ada was running through the crowd, screaming, her face a mask of horror. "What's happening? What's happening to the children? Someone call an ambulance. Someone help." Her own son, Chidi, was lying on the ground, unresponsive. Her daughter, Adiz, was in someone else's arms, her little body shaking. A father, I think his name was Jide, ran into the house shouting, "What did these children eat? What did they drink? Something is wrong. Something poisoned them." Several men followed him inside. We could hear them shouting, and then we heard a commotion, the sound of things being knocked over, raised angry voices. Then Jide came running back out, dragging someone behind him. It was Ben. And Jide was screaming, "What did you do? What did you give these children?" Ben looked confused, his eyes unfocused. He was clearly intoxicated or high. "What? What are you talking about? The children are dying. All of them. They are unconscious. They've been poisoned. What did you do?" Other men had followed them out, and one was holding an empty jug. "This," he shouted, holding up the jug. "The drinks were poisoned. Look at this." Someone else emerged from the kitchen holding bottles, tramadol tablets, bottles of codeine syrup. "There are drugs everywhere in that kitchen. Hard drugs. This man poisoned the children." Ben's face changed as reality seemed to penetrate his intoxicated haze. He looked at the jug, looked at the pills, looked around at all the sick children, and his face went white. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no. That jug wasn't supposed to, it was for me and my friends. The children weren't supposed to drink that." "How did?" He didn't get to finish. Several fathers grabbed him, some shouting, some with their fists raised. Ada was screaming at him, crying, holding her unconscious son. But there was no time for confrontation. Our children needed help immediately. "Everyone get your children to the hospital," someone shouted. "Now. Don't waste time." Parents sprang into action. Those who had driven grabbed their children and ran to their cars. Those who hadn't driven were calling taxis, calling friends, calling anyone who could help transport their unconscious children to medical care. I picked up Amora, she was so heavy, like dead weight, and I pushed that thought away immediately and ran to my car. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key into the ignition. When I finally started the car, I laid Amora across the back seat and drove out of that compound like I was fleeing from death itself. Because I was. The drive to Reddington Hospital was the longest 15 minutes of my life, even though I was driving dangerously fast, running red lights, honking constantly. I kept turning to look at Amora in the back seat. "Baby, stay with me. Keep breathing. We are almost there. Stay with mommy." But she didn't respond. Her eyes were closed. I couldn't see if her chest was rising and falling. I couldn't tell if she was breathing. "Amora. Amora, can you hear me?" My voice was rising to a scream. "Please, baby, please." I pulled into the emergency entrance of Reddington Hospital, slammed on the brakes, and jumped out. "Help. I need help. My daughter has been poisoned." Hospital staff came running. They took one look at Amora's limp form and brought a gurney immediately. They lifted her out of my car and onto the gurney, wheeling her inside while I ran alongside, answering their rapid-fire questions. What happened? How long has she been like this? What did she consume? Does she have any allergies? Is she on any medications? I tried to answer everything, my words stumbling over each other. Birthday party. She drank juice. It was poisoned. Drugs. Tramadol, codeine, alcohol. 20 minutes ago. Maybe 30. I don't know. Please help her. They rushed her into the emergency room, and I tried to follow, but a nurse stopped me. Madam, please wait here. The doctors need space to walk. But she's my daughter. I need to be with her. I understand, but you'll be in the way. Please, let them do their job. I promise we'll update you as soon as we can. I stood there in the hallway, helpless, watching through the small window as doctors and nurses swarmed around my daughter's small body. I saw them checking her vital signs, inserting a four-line into her arm, placing an oxygen mask over her face. I saw them moving with controlled urgency, heard them calling out numbers and medical terms that meant nothing to me. And then, as I stood there watching, more families started arriving. Parents carrying unconscious children, running through the emergency entrance, screaming for help. The staff looked overwhelmed but immediately sprang into action, bringing more gurneys, opening more emergency rooms, calling for backup. Within 30 minutes, the emergency department was filled with children from the party. I saw mothers I knew, women I had been sitting with just an hour ago, laughing and chatting. Now we were all in the same nightmare, watching our children fight for their lives. The waiting room filled with parents. Some were crying. Some were praying loudly. Some were calling family members, their voices breaking as they tried to explain what had happened. Some just sat in silence, staring at nothing, in shock. I called my husband, Daniel, who was out of town on a business trip. You need to come home, I told him, my voice surprisingly steady despite everything. Amora is in the hospital. She's been poisoned. All the children at the party were poisoned. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, what? What are you talking about? Is this a joke? I wish it were. Please, just come home. I need you here. He promised to catch the next available flight from Abuja and be home within hours. The hospital staff were incredible. Despite being overwhelmed by the sudden influx of over 50 critically ill children, they maintained their professionalism. More doctors were called in from other departments and from home. Nurses who had finished their shift stayed to help. The hospital pharmacy was open after hours to get the medications needed. A senior doctor, Dr. Okafor, came out to address all the parents in the waiting room. He was a calm, middle-aged man with kind eyes, and just his presence seemed to bring some order to the chaos. Parents, I need your attention please, he said, his voice gentle but firm. I know you're all terrified. I know you want answers. I'm going to tell you everything we know so far. The room went silent except for some quiet crying. Your children have been poisoned with a combination of opioid medications, specifically tramadol and codeine, mixed with alcohol. This is an extremely dangerous combination, especially for children whose bodies are much smaller and more vulnerable than adults. The symptoms you're seeing, unconsciousness, vomiting, slow breathing, pinpoint pupils, are all consistent with opioid overdose. Someone cried out, a wordless sound of anguish. Dr. Okafor continued. We are treating them with everything we have. We are administering activated charcoal to absorb remaining toxins in their stomachs. We are giving them 4 fluids to help flush the drugs from their systems. We are using a medication called naloxone, which counteracts opioid effects. And we are providing supportive care, oxygen, monitoring, whatever each child needs individually. Will they be okay? A father called out. Will they survive? Dr. Okafor's face showed compassion but also honesty. I can't make promises. Every child is different. Some consumed more of the poison than others. Some children's bodies are more resilient than others. What I can tell you is that we are doing absolutely everything medically possible to save them. But I need you all to prepare yourselves. Some of these children are in critical condition. The next 24 to 48 hours will be crucial. A woman next to me let out a wail and collapsed into her husband's arms. We'll keep you updated, Dr. Okafor said. For now, I need you to stay calm and stay together. Support each other. Pray if you're the praying type. And trust that we are fighting for your children. He went back inside, and we parents were left with nothing to do but wait. Hours passed. Night fell. The hospital became a place of vigil. Family members started arriving, grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, all coming to support the parents, all wearing the same expressions of shock and disbelief. The waiting room became crowded with people, but strangely quiet. Everyone spoke in hushed tones, as if afraid that speaking too loudly might somehow make things worse. Nurses came out periodically with updates on individual children. Some news was hopeful: he's responding to treatment, she's woken up and is talking, his vital signs are stable. Other news was terrifying: she's still unconscious, we're having trouble stabilizing his breathing, we may need to transfer him to ICU. Around 10 p.m., a nurse came to me. Mrs. Chinyo, you can come see your daughter now. I jumped up and followed her down the corridor, my heart pounding. She led me to a room in the ICU where Amora lay in a hospital bed that looked far too big for her small body. She was unconscious, her face pale, tubes coming from her nose and arms. Machines beeped steadily around her, monitoring her heartbeat, her breathing, her oxygen levels. She looked so small, so fragile, so different from the vibrant child who had been bouncing on a castle just hours ago. I pulled a chair close to her bed and took her hand. It was warm, which I took as a good sign. I held it gently and began to talk to her. Amora, it's Mommy. I'm here, baby. I'm not going anywhere. You need to fight, okay? You need to be strong. I know you're tired, but you need to fight this. We have so much more to do together. Remember? You wanted to learn how to ride a bike. You wanted to go to Disneyland. You wanted to be a doctor when you grew up. You still have all these things to do. So you need to wake up. You need to come back to me. I talked to her like this for hours, sometimes telling her stories, sometimes praying, sometimes just holding her hand in silence. Nurses came in and out, checking her vitals, adjusting her for, making notes on their charts. They were all kind, speaking gently, explaining what they were doing. Around midnight, Daniel arrived. I had never been so happy to see him. He burst into the room, his face haggard from travel and fear, and wrapped his arms around me. We held each other and cried, then sat together beside our daughter's bed. Tell me everything, he said. So I did. I told him about the party, about the poison drinks, about Ben and his friends, about the chaos and the terror. He listened in stunned silence, occasionally shaking his head in disbelief. How could this happen? He kept asking. How could someone be so careless? I had no answer. There was no answer that made sense. We sat together through the night, taking turns holding Amora's hand, talking to her, praying over her. Neither of us slept. We couldn't. Every time a machine beeped differently, every time a nurse came in, we would stutter, afraid it was bad news. But slowly, gradually, Amora's condition began to stabilize. Her vital signs steadied. Her breathing became stronger. Around 4 a.m., 3 days into her hospitalization, her eyes fluttered open. Amora. I jumped up, leaning over her. Baby, can you hear me? Her eyes focused on my face, and she whispered, "Mommy." I burst into tears. "Yes, baby, it's Mommy. I'm here. Daddy's here too." "I don't feel good," she whispered, her voice so small and weak. "I know, sweetheart. I know. But you're going to be okay. The doctors are taking care of you." She closed her eyes again, but this time it was different. She wasn't unconscious, she was just sleeping. Normal, natural sleep. The nurse who had been monitoring her confirmed it. "She's past the worst of it," the nurse said with a smile. "She's going to recover." I hugged Daniel, and we both cried with relief. Our daughter was going to live. But even as I celebrated this small victory, I knew that other families in the hospital might not be so lucky. I could still hear crying from other rooms, could still see the fear in other parents' eyes when our paths crossed in the hallways. Over the next few days, as Amora slowly recovered, I learned more about what had happened to the other children. Most of them survived. 51 children, including Amora, eventually recovered enough to go home. But recovered is a relative term. Many of them had suffered damage that would affect them for the rest of their lives. Some children developed kidney problems from the toxic overload their small bodies had endured. They would need regular checkups, medication, and careful monitoring for years, possibly forever. Amora was one of them. The doctors explained that her kidneys had been damaged, and while they still functioned, they weren't at full capacity anymore. She would need to avoid certain foods and medications, stay well hydrated, and come in for regular blood tests. Other children had liver damage. One little girl I heard about would need a liver transplant eventually. Her parents were already on waiting lists, already facing the daunting prospect of major surgery and lifelong complications. Some children developed neurological issues, problems with coordination, with learning, with memory. One boy who had been at the top of his class academically now struggled to remember things from one day to the next. Another child developed a seizure disorder that hadn't existed before the poisoning. And then there were the two children who didn't make it. The first was a 5-year-old boy named Connor. He had drunk 2 full cups of the poison juice because he had been very thirsty from playing. His small body simply couldn't handle the massive dose of opioids and alcohol. His organs began to shut down, and despite every effort from the medical team, his heart stopped on the second day. They couldn't revive him. I didn't know Connor's family well, but I saw his mother in the hospital hallway after it happened. She was being supported by 2 relatives, barely able to walk, her face a mask of devastation. The sound she made when they told her, that primal scream of a mother who had lost her child, haunted me for months afterward. The second tragedy was Ada's own son, Chidi. One of the birthday twins, the child this party had been celebrating. Chidi had been in critical condition from the start. The doctors did everything they could. He spent days in ICU, his small body fighting an impossible battle. His kidneys failed. His liver failed. The doctors made the difficult decision to amputate his left leg when gangrene set in due to poor circulation caused by the poisoning. Ada signed the consent form for the amputation with shaking hands, tears streaming down her face. How do you make a decision like that? How do you choose to let them cut off your 3-year-old's leg, knowing it's his only chance at survival? The surgery was performed, and for a few days, it seemed like Chidi might make it. He was stable. His remaining organs were holding on. Ada allowed herself to hope. But then complications arose. The surgical site became infected despite all the antibiotics and precautions. His body, already weakened by the poisoning and the trauma of surgery, couldn't fight the infection. It spread to his bloodstream. He developed septic shock. Chidi passed away 15 days after his birthday party. 15 days after he had been a healthy, happy 3-year-old running around his compound in his birthday outfit. When we heard the news, the entire parent community was devastated. Many of us attended his funeral, A heartbreaking affair where a tiny white coffin was lowered into the ground while Ada collapsed beside it, held up by relatives. Her daughter, Adiz, Chidi's twin, had survived but with permanent kidney damage. Ada now faced life with one child instead of two, and that surviving child would need medical care and supervision forever. The financial impact of the poisoning was staggering. Amora's hospital stay lasted 1 week. Just 1 week. The bill came to 3,200,000 naira. That included the ICU stay, all the medications, the tests, the procedures, the doctor consultations, everything. 3 million naira. I had some savings, but not that much. I had to borrow money from my parents, from Daniel's parents, from our siblings. We had to take a loan from our bank. We sold our second car. We emptied our children's education fund that we had been building for years. And we were fortunate. Amora's case was moderate compared to some others. Parents whose children were in ICU for longer, who needed more intensive interventions, who developed more serious complications, their bills ran into 5, 6, 7 million naira or more. The parents of Connor, the little boy who didn't survive, spent over 4 million naira trying to save him. They sold their land. They borrowed from everyone they knew. They went into serious debt. And their child still died. Now they had the grief and the debt. Who was supposed to pay for all this? The man responsible, Ben, had disappeared. Yes, disappeared. While his son lay dying in the hospital, while over 50 families were going through hell, Ben packed a bag and ran away. Some people said he fled to his village in Anambra State. Others claimed he crossed the border into Benin Republic. Some rumors said he had gone as far as Ghana. Whatever the truth, he was gone, and with him went any hope of financial restitution or justice. The police were called, of course. Reports were filed. Ben's friends who had been drinking with him were arrested and questioned. They admitted to being present, to drinking drugs and alcohol with Ben, but they claimed they hadn't known the drinks would be given to children. They said they thought Blessing would get the right juice. The police charged them with reckless endangerment and other crimes, but they were released on bail. And it turned out none of them had any money. They were all unemployed or barely employed, living day to day. There was nothing to take from them, no assets to seize, no way to get compensation. Ada tried her best to take responsibility. She apologized to every parent individually, visiting homes, attending hospital bedsides, crying and begging for forgiveness. I warned him, she kept saying. I told him not to have those friends over. I told him not to bring drugs into our house. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Her pain was real. She had lost a child too. She was as much a victim of Ben's recklessness as any of us. But still, it had happened in her house, at her party. Some parents blamed her. Some refused to see her or speak to her. To her credit, Ada sold her house, the beautiful house in Victoria Garden City where the party had taken place. She sold it and used the money to help pay medical bills for the most severely affected children. She gave money to Connor's family for funeral expenses. She helped where she could. But it wasn't enough. Even if she sold everything she owned, it wouldn't have been enough. 53 families had medical expenses running into hundreds of millions of naira collectively. No one person could cover that. So each family bore their own burden. We paid our own bills. We carried our own debt. We dealt with our own trauma. Some parents tried to pursue legal justice. A group of about 15 families hired a lawyer together, pooling resources to file criminal charges and a civil lawsuit. The lawyer was optimistic at first. This is a clear case of criminal negligence, he said. We have witnesses, we have evidence, we have medical records. We should be able to get justice. But the Nigerian legal system moves slowly. Cases take years. Courts are backlogged. And when the primary defendant is missing, everything becomes more complicated. Ben was declared wanted by the police, but no one could find him. Months passed, then a year, and still no sign of him. The case couldn't proceed properly without him present. His friends who had been arrested went to court but hired cheap lawyers and dragged out proceedings with endless adjournments. When they finally went to trial, they received light sentences, community service and small fines they couldn't even pay. They served a few months and were released. The civil lawsuit against Ada was also complicated. Yes, the party had been at her house, but she personally hadn't committed any crime. She hadn't known about the poison drinks. She hadn't given them to the children. She had been as horrified as everyone else when it happened. The lawyer argued that as the homeowner and party host, she bore some responsibility for what happened on her property. But Ada had already sold her house and most of her assets. She was living with relatives, barely getting by, trying to care for her surviving daughter. There wasn't much to get from her even if they won. Eventually, most families gave up on the legal route. It was too expensive, too time-consuming, too frustrating. The stress of constantly going to court, relieving the trauma, hoping for justice that never seemed to come, it wasn't worth it. Better to focus on healing, on moving forward, on rebuilding our lives. But that doesn't mean we forgot or forgave. The poisoning incident sent shockwaves through the entire Lekki community and beyond. It was covered in newspapers, on blogs, on social media. 53 children poisoned at birthday party was the headline that spread everywhere. The story became a cautionary tale. Parents everywhere started questioning whether they should send their children to parties. Birthday party invitations that once would have been automatically accepted were now scrutinized carefully. Do you know these people well? Will you stay at the party or just drop off? What kind of security will they have? Who else will be there? Some parents made new rules. They would only let their children attend parties where they personally knew the host very well, or where they could stay and supervise the entire time. Our children's school held an emergency meeting for parents. The principal addressed the entire community, offering counseling services for affected families, talking about safety protocols, discussing how to prevent such tragedies. The school also quietly asked Ada to withdraw her surviving daughter, Addis. They didn't say it explicitly, but the implication was clear. Her family's presence was a reminder of the tragedy, and it was making other parents uncomfortable. Ada complied. She enrolled Addis in a different school in a different neighborhood, where people didn't know their story. I heard she eventually moved away from Lagos entirely, starting over somewhere where she and her daughter could escape the shadow of that terrible day. I understood why she left. Every time any of us saw her, we were reminded. Every time she saw us, she must have been reminded too. Sometimes the only way to heal is to leave. Amara was physically out of the hospital after 1 week, but her recovery was far from complete. For the first month after coming home, she was weak and tired all the time. Simple activities that she used to do easily, running, playing, going upstairs, exhausted her. She would come back from school, or when she finally went back, and immediately fall asleep. The kidney damage meant she had to completely change her diet. No more processed foods, no more salt-heavy snacks she loved, limited protein, lots of water. She had to take medication twice a day, every day, without fail. For a 7-year-old, this was confusing and frustrating. Why can't I eat like my friends? She would ask. Why do I have to take medicine when I don't feel sick anymore? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her kidneys don't work properly anymore? That she would deal with this for the rest of her life? That one afternoon of drinking what she thought was normal juice at a party had permanently changed her body? We tried to explain it in age-appropriate ways. Your kidneys are like filters in your body. They got hurt at the party, so now they need extra help to do their job. The medicine helps them. The special diet helps them. We need to take good care of them. She nodded like she understood, but I could see the confusion and sadness in her eyes. The emotional trauma was even worse than the physical issues. For weeks after the incident, Amora had nightmares. She would wake up screaming, crying, saying she felt dizzy again, that she couldn't wake up, that she was scared. Daniel and I took turns sleeping in her room, holding her when she woke, reassuring her she was safe. She became clingy in a way she hadn't been since she was a toddler. She didn't want to go to school. She didn't want me to leave her sight. Even going to the bathroom alone scared her. She was afraid that if she was alone, something bad would happen again and no one would be there to help. The school counselor suggested we take her to a child psychologist, which we did. Dr. Adebayo was wonderful, patient and kind, using play therapy and other techniques to help Amora process what had happened to her. She's experiencing post-traumatic stress, Dr. Adebayo explained to us. That party was a traumatic event for her. She felt scared, sick, and out of control. Her brain is trying to protect her by making her hypervigilant and afraid of situations that might be similar. How long will this last? I asked. It's different for every child. With therapy, support, and time, most children can heal. But some effects may be long-term. We'll work through it together. We committed to weekly therapy sessions. Slowly, gradually, Amora began to improve emotionally. The nightmares became less frequent. She started sleeping in her own room again. She became more comfortable going to school. But one thing never changed, her fear of parties. About 6 months after the incident, Amora was invited to a classmate's birthday party. When I showed her the invitation, her face went pale. Her hands started shaking. I don't want to go, she whispered. Sweetheart, it's just a party. Your friend Zainab is having it at her house. It will be fun. No. She started crying, real tears of fear. No, I don't want to go. Please don't make me go. Something bad will happen. I held her while she sobbed, my heart breaking. That's when I realized the full extent of what that one terrible day had stolen from her. Not just her kidney function. Not just her sense of safety. But her ability to enjoy simple childhood pleasures like birthday parties. I didn't make her go. I never made her go to another party. We politely declined invitations with vague excuses, and eventually, people stopped inviting her. Some people told me I was being overprotective. You can't let one bad experience ruin everything, one friend said. You're teaching her to be afraid of life. But they hadn't seen what I had seen. They hadn't watched their child nearly die. They didn't understand that my fear and Amora's fear were both completely rational responses to a very real danger we had experienced. Today, Amora is 10 years old. 3 years have passed since that terrible March afternoon. Physically, she has adjusted to her new reality. She knows her dietary restrictions. She takes her medication without being reminded. She goes for her regular checkups, blood tests every 3 months, ultrasounds every 6 months, without complaint. The doctors say her kidney function is stable. Not normal, but stable. With proper care, she should be able to live a relatively normal life, though we'll always have to be careful. She's back in school full-time and doing well academically. She missed an entire year of school during her recovery, which meant she had to repeat primary 2, but she caught up quickly. She has friends. She plays, though not as vigorously as other children. She gets tired more easily. She laughs. She has dreams and goals. But she's different from who she was before. There's a seriousness to her now, a cautiousness that wasn't there when she was 7. She's more aware of danger, more aware that bad things can happen suddenly and without warning. And yes, she still refuses to attend birthday parties. We've tried gently encouraging her a few times over the years, but the fear is too deep. Instead, we've found other ways for her to celebrate friends, one-on-one playdates at our house, going to the movies together, having small gatherings where she feels safe. It's not ideal. I wish she could just be a carefree child. But this is our reality now. As for me, I've become that parent, the one other parents probably consider paranoid and overprotective. I never send Amora anywhere without knowing exactly who will be there, what the supervision will be like, what food and drinks will be served. Even at school events, I volunteer to help so I can keep an eye on things. Some people think I'm excessive. But I don't care. My job is to protect my child, and I take that job seriously. The financial impact still affects us too. We are still paying off the loans we took to cover medical bills. It will take another 2 years at least. We've had to make sacrifices, no family vacations, no new car, delayed home repairs. But we are managing. Amora is alive and that's what matters. I've stayed in touch with some of the other families from that day, bonded by shared trauma. Most of the children survived and are doing relatively okay, though almost all of them have ongoing medical issues of varying severity. Kidney problems are common. Some have liver issues. A few developed seizure disorders that require lifelong medication. One little girl, Chisholm, had such severe kidney damage that she needed a transplant. She received one from her father 2 years ago and is doing well now, though she'll need immunosuppressant drugs forever. Another boy, Femi, developed learning disabilities from the neurological impact of the poisoning. He's in special education now, receiving extra support. His parents are patient and loving, but you can see the grief in their eyes, grief for the bright, quick child he was before that day. Connell's family, the family of the first child who didn't survive, moved away from Lagos entirely. I heard they relocated to Ibadan. The father quit his job and started over somewhere else, somewhere without constant reminders of their loss. Ada and her daughter Adis also left Lagos. Last I heard, they were living in Port Harcourt with Ada's family. Adis is managing her kidney condition, going to a new school where no one knows their story. Ada reportedly never remarried, never dated, just focused entirely on raising her surviving child and trying to build a new life from the ruins of the old one. As for Ben, the man who caused all of this, he was never found. The police stopped actively searching after about a year. His family claimed they didn't know where he was. Ada filed for divorce in absentia and it was granted. Legally, he's a wanted man. Practically, he's gone. Sometimes I think about him. I wonder where he is, what he's doing, whether he ever thinks about what he did. Does he know his son died? Does he feel any remorse? Does he lie awake at night thinking about the 50 families he destroyed? Or has he moved on, found new friends to drink and do drugs with, started a new life somewhere where nobody knows what he did? I hope he suffers. I know that's not charitable or Christian of me, but it's the truth. I hope he suffers every single day with the knowledge of what his carelessness cost. I hope he can never forget those children's faces, can never escape what he did. But mostly, I just wish he had been caught. I wish he had faced justice. I wish there had been accountability. The fact that he got away, that he caused so much pain and destruction and simply ran away, feels like a second violation, a second injustice on top of the first. This experience changed me fundamentally as a mother and as a person. These are the lessons I carry with me now. Trust is not enough. I trusted Ada. She was a good person, a responsible mother, someone I had known for over a year. But trust doesn't account for the actions of people you don't know, like Ben and his friends. You can trust the host completely and still have something terrible happen because of other people who are present. You cannot control what you cannot see. At that party, I was physically present, but I wasn't in the kitchen. I didn't see the drinks being prepared. I didn't see Blessing pick up the wrong jug. I couldn't control what I couldn't see. Now, I only let Amara consume food and drinks that I have personally prepared or that I can see being prepared from start to finish. Addiction destroys more than just the addict. Ben's addiction didn't just harm him. It harmed his children, his wife, 50 other families, the entire community. Addiction is not a victimless disease. When you're an addict, your choices ripple outward and affect everyone around you. The legal system often fails victims. Despite clear evidence, despite multiple witnesses, despite the severity of what happened, there was no real justice. The main perpetrator disappeared. His accomplices received light sentences. The families got no compensation. We learned that legal justice and actual justice are often very different things. Medical bills can destroy families. Even with insurance, which many families didn't have, the costs were staggering. Healthcare in Nigeria is expensive, and when you're dealing with a mass poisoning incident affecting dozens of children, the financial devastation is immense. Many families are still paying off debts years later. Children are resilient, but trauma is real. Amora survived physically, but the emotional scars remain. Trauma doesn't just disappear because time passes. It requires active work, therapy, support, patience, to heal. And some wounds never fully heal, you just learn to live with them. Community matters. In the aftermath of the tragedy, our school community and church community rallied around the affected families. People brought food, offered to babysit other children, provided financial help where they could, just showed up and sat with us. That support was crucial to our survival. We couldn't have gotten through it alone. Prevention is better than treatment. No amount of medical care could undo what happened that day. No amount of therapy could erase the trauma. The only thing that could have helped was prevention. If Ben hadn't brought drugs to the party, if the jugs had been properly labeled and separated, if Blessing had double-checked before serving the children. Prevention is always better than trying to fix things after disaster strikes. If you have children, please learn from our tragedy. Here's my advice. Be present at parties. Don't just drop your children off unless you know the host extremely well and trust the environment completely. Stay at the party. Watch what's happening. You can socialize with other parents while still keeping an eye on things. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask host about who else will be at the party, what food and drinks will be served, whether there will be adequate adult supervision. If they get offended by your questions, that's a red flag. Bring your own drinks and snacks if you're unsure. It might seem excessive, but there's nothing wrong with bringing a water bottle and some snacks for your child if you're not completely comfortable with what's being served. Trust your instincts. If something feels off about a party or a situation, listen to that feeling. Our instincts exist for a reason. Don't override them just to be polite or avoid seeming paranoid. Teach your children to be cautious. Age appropriately, teach your children not to accept food or drinks from people they don't know, to tell you if something tastes strange, to come find you if they feel uncomfortable or sick. Know the signs of poisoning or overdose. Drowsiness, confusion, vomiting, difficulty breathing, loss of consciousness, these are emergency signs. If you see them, don't wait. Get medical help immediately. Minutes can make the difference between life and death. And if you're hosting a party for children, please take these precautions. Control who is in your house. Don't let friends or family members who are drunk, high, or irresponsible anywhere near a children's event. Your children's safety comes before anyone's feelings. Keep all drugs, alcohol, and dangerous substances locked away. Not just put away, locked away where no one can accidentally access them. This includes prescription medications, cleaning supplies, everything. Label everything clearly. If you have multiple jugs of drinks, label them clearly and keep them separate. Better yet, have only one type of drink for children and serve it yourself or supervise the serving closely. Brief your help thoroughly. If you have house help or hired servers, make sure they understand exactly what should be served to children and what should not. Check in with them multiple times during the event. Have emergency contacts ready. Know where the nearest hospital is. Have emergency numbers programmed in your phone. Have a first aid kit available. Hope you never need these things, but be prepared. Limit the number of guests. Smaller, more manageable parties are safer than huge events where it's impossible to supervise everything that's happening. Consider hiring professional child supervisors. If you're having a large party, consider hiring trained childcare professionals to help supervise, not just entertainers. 3 years later, life goes on. We've adapted to our new normal. Amara takes her medicine, watches her diet, goes for her checkups. She's learned to live with limitations that no 10-year-old should have to think about. But we're also learning to find joy again. Not the carefree, innocent joy we had before, that's gone forever, but a different kind of joy. A harder one, more conscious joy. The joy of survival. The joy of still being here together. We celebrate birthdays differently now. Amora's 8th, 9th, and 10th birthdays were small affairs at home with just family and 1 or 2 of her closest friends. No big parties. No elaborate setups. Just cake, kidney-friendly cake that I make myself, some games, and quality time with people she loves and trusts completely. She seems content with this. She doesn't ask for big parties. I think part of her is relieved not to have to face that fear. But sometimes I catch her looking at party photos on social media or hearing classmates talk about parties they attended, and I see a flicker of sadness cross her face. Sadness for the experiences she's missing, for the childhood she might have had if that one afternoon had gone differently. Daniel and I have also changed. We are more careful about everything now. Not just parties, but playdates, school trips, any situation where Amora is out of our direct supervision. Some people think we're too protective, that we're letting fear control our lives. Maybe they're right. But they didn't live through what we lived through. Our marriage was tested by this experience. The stress, the fear, the financial burden, the guilt, we both felt guilty, even though logically we knew it wasn't our fault, the constant worry about Amora, it all put tremendous pressure on our relationship. There were times in that first year when I wasn't sure we would make it. But we chose to fight for our marriage the way we fought for our daughter. We went to counseling together. We learned to communicate better, to support each other, to share the burden instead of letting it push us apart. We are stronger now than we were before, though I wish we hadn't needed such a traumatic experience to get here. The incident had ripple effects beyond just the families directly involved. The school where most of the children attended implemented new policies. They now require parents hosting school-related social events to register them with the school and follow certain safety guidelines. They provide educational materials about child safety at parties. They even offer a voluntary inspection service where a school representative will visit your venue before a large children's party to identify potential safety issues. Some parents thought these measures were excessive, an overreaction to one tragic incident. But those of us who lived through it were grateful. If these policies could prevent even one other family from experiencing what we experienced, they were worth it. Local hospitals also learned from the incident. Reddington and other hospitals that treated the children that they developed better protocols for handling mass casualty events involving children. They created rapid response teams, updated their toxicology procedures, improved coordination between emergency departments. Our tragedy became a case study in medical journals, helping doctors elsewhere prepare for similar emergencies. The Lagos state government even briefly considered implementing regulations about serving alcohol or having drugs at events where children are present, but nothing concrete ever came of it. The proposal got lost in bureaucracy and politics, like so many good intentions do in Nigeria. Media coverage of the incident also sparked national conversations about drug abuse in Nigeria. Tramadol and codeine abuse had been growing problems, particularly among young men, but most people didn't realize how widespread it was until this incident brought it into sharp focus. Some advocacy groups used our story to push for better drug abuse prevention and treatment programs. I participated in a few of these advocacy efforts, sharing our story at forums and events, hoping it might make a difference. But I eventually stopped. Reliving the trauma over and over again, even for a good cause, was taking a toll on my mental health. I had to prioritize my own healing and my family's well-being over activism. About 6 months after the incident, a few of us mothers from that day started meeting regularly. It wasn't formal or organized, we just needed to talk to people who understood what we had been through. We met at a cafe once a month, sometimes more often if someone was having a particularly hard time. We shared our struggles, children having nightmares, ongoing medical issues, financial stress, relationship problems, our own mental health challenges. We cried together. We prayed together. We reminded each other that we weren't alone, that what we were feeling was normal given what we had experienced. The support group was a lifeline for me in those early months. These women understood in a way that even well-meaning friends and family couldn't. They had been there. They had felt the same terror, the same helplessness, the same anger. I didn't have to explain or justify my feelings to them. They just got it. Over time, as healing progressed, the meetings became less frequent. Some women stopped coming, ready to move forward and put the experience behind them. Others, like me, still attend occasionally because sometimes you need to talk to someone who truly understands. One mother in our group, Ngozi, whose daughter developed a seizure disorder from the poisoning, became a close friend. Our daughters are the same age and have similar medical restrictions, so we often arrange playdates for them at each other's homes, safe, supervised, controlled environments where both girls can just be kids without fear. Watching Amara and Ngozi's daughter, Adana, play together is bittersweet. They are different from other children their age, more cautious, more aware of their bodies and their limitations. But they understand each other in a way other children can't. They are both survivors. They both carry invisible scars. And in that shared experience, they found friendship. Even 3 years later, certain questions keep me awake at night. What if I had said no to the party invitation? What if I had listened more carefully to that small voice of intuition that told me to be extra cautious? What if I had gone into the kitchen and checked the drinks myself? What if I had insisted on bringing our own drinks and snacks? The rational part of my brain knows that this wasn't my fault. I was being a normal parent, doing normal parent things. I had no reason to suspect danger. But the guilty, traumatized part of my brain keeps asking, what if? I also wonder about the what ifs for others. What if Ada had been more forceful in refusing to let Ben's friends attend? What if Blessing had double-checked which jug she was taking? What if one of the other parents had noticed something was wrong and stopped the drinks from being served? What if Ben's addiction had been caught and treated earlier, before it led to this tragedy? So many small decisions, so many tiny moments where things could have gone differently. The terrifying randomness of it all, that's what haunts me most. How quickly life can change. How fast joy can turn to horror. How fragile safety really is. People ask me if I've forgiven Ben. Religious folks, especially, tell me that I need to forgive to find peace, that holding on to anger will only hurt me. I understand what they are saying. I understand that forgiveness is supposed to be healing, that it's supposed to free you from the burden of hatred. But I'm not there yet. Maybe I'll never be there. How do you forgive someone who poisoned your child, accidentally or not, and then ran away like a coward? How do you forgive someone who showed no remorse, made no attempt to make amends, just disappeared and left everyone else to deal with the consequences of his actions? I'm angry. 3 years later, I'm still angry. Angry at Ben for his addiction, his carelessness, his cowardice. Angry at the system that let him escape without facing justice. Angry at the universe for allowing this to happen to innocent children. Angry at myself for not somehow preventing it. Some days the anger is a small, quiet thing in the background of my life. Other days it flares up intensely, making me want to scream or break things. I've learned to manage it through therapy and prayer, but I haven't learned to let it go. Maybe that makes me a bad person. Maybe it means I'm not healing properly. But it's the truth. I have more sympathy for Ada. Some parents from that they can't separate her from Ben, can't forgive her for being married to him, for hosting the party where it happened. But I feel differently. Ada was a victim too. She lost her son. Her daughter is permanently damaged. Her life was destroyed. She tried to help as much as she could afterward. She didn't cause this, she suffered from it. I don't blame Ada. I pity her. How do you live with the knowledge that your husband's actions killed your child and harmed so many others? How do you carry that weight? I hope she's found some peace in Port Harcourt, some way to build a life for herself and Addis that isn't entirely defined by tragedy. I've never asked Amara directly what she remembers from that day. Her therapist, Dr. Adebayo, advised me not to unless she brings it up herself. Let her tell her story in her own time, in her own way, Dr. Adebayo said. Don't push her to remember or talk about it before she's ready. But sometimes Amara mentions things. Little fragments of memory that surface unexpectedly. Once, about a year after the incident, we were at a supermarket and walked past the juice aisle. Amara suddenly grabbed my hand tightly and said, "The juice at Ada's party tasted funny." I remember it tasted funny, but I drank it anyway because I was thirsty. My heart clenched. "I know, baby," I said softly. "It wasn't regular juice. That's why you got sick." "I should have told you it tasted funny," she said, her voice small. "Then maybe you would have known something was wrong." "Oh sweetheart, no." I knelt down to her eye level right there in the supermarket aisle. "This was not your fault. Not even a tiny bit. You were just a little girl drinking juice at a party. You did nothing wrong. The adults who were supposed to keep you safe were the ones who failed. Not you. Never you." She nodded, but I could see she didn't entirely believe me. Children have a way of assuming responsibility for things that aren't their fault, especially traumatic things. It's a coping mechanism. If they caused it, then maybe they can prevent it from happening again. That illusion of control is sometimes more comforting than accepting the randomness of tragedy. Another time, during a therapy session that I was allowed to attend, Amara drew a picture. It showed a large house with balloons, children playing, and then, in stark contrast to the colorful party scene, children lying on the ground in black and gray. Above them, she had drawn dark clouds. "This is the party," she explained to Dr. Adebayo. "It started happy. Then everyone fell down. I fell down too. I wanted to get up but I couldn't. I was very scared." "What were you scared of?" Dr. Adebayo asked gently. "I was scared I would never get up again," Amara said. "I was scared I would never see my mommy again. I had to leave the room. I went to the bathroom and cried, trying to stay quiet so Amara wouldn't hear me. My 7-year-old daughter had thought she was dying. She had been that scared. And I hadn't been able to protect her from that fear. But it's not all darkness and trauma. There have been small victories along the way, moments of hope and healing that keep us going." When Amara made it through her first year after the incident without any major medical crisis, we celebrated quietly. When her kidney function test came back stable for the 3rd time in a row, we celebrated again. When she slept through an entire night without nightmares for the first time in months, I cried tears of relief and gratitude. When she laughed, really laughed, the way she used to, at a silly video on TV, I felt a flutter of hope. When she made a new friend at school who she trusted enough to have over for a playdate, I saw it as progress. When she asked if she could join the school choir, wanting to participate in something communal and joyful, I signed her up immediately. These small victories might seem insignificant to someone who hasn't lived through trauma. But to us, they're everything. They are proof that healing is possible, that life continues, that joy can exist even after horror. Amora is finding ways to be a child again, within the boundaries of her new reality. She's learning to navigate her medical restrictions without letting them define her entirely. She's building confidence and independence. She's dreaming about the future. She wants to be a doctor when she grows up, specifically a pediatrician, to help sick children get better. That ambition breaks my heart and feels it at the same time. She wants to transform her pain into purpose, her experience into empathy for others. That's remarkable for a 10-year-old. That's resilience. If you've read this far, thank you for hearing our story. Here's what I want you to take away from it. This can happen to anyone. You might think you're too careful, too smart, too vigilant for something like this to happen to your family. That's what I thought too. But tragedy doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter how educated you are, how wealthy, how careful. Random, terrible things can happen to anyone. Trust must be earned and verified. Don't assume something is safe just because it looks safe or because someone you trust is hosting. Ask questions. Verify. Be present. Your children's safety is too important for assumptions. Addiction affects everyone. Ben's drug problem didn't just destroy his own life, it destroyed dozens of other lives too. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, please get help before it leads to tragedy. Addiction is a disease that requires treatment, not just willpower. The system often fails victims. We like to believe that justice prevails, that bad people are punished, that victims are compensated. But the reality is often different. The legal system is slow, expensive, and not guaranteed to deliver justice. Don't rely solely on the system to make things right, take steps to protect yourself and your family proactively. Trauma is real and lasting. Physical wounds may heal, but emotional wounds can last forever. If you or your children experience trauma, please seek professional help. Therapy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Don't try to just get over it or stay strong without support. Community and support matter. We couldn't have survived this alone. Family, friends, our church, our support group, all of these connections helped us through the darkest times. Don't isolate yourself if tragedy strikes. Reach out. Accept help. Connect with others who understand. Children are resilient, but they need help. Amora survived and is doing relatively well, but not because we just waited for her to bounce back. She's doing well because we got her professional help, because we supported her recovery actively, because we validated her feelings and fears instead of dismissing them. Don't expect children to just naturally heal from trauma, help them heal. Prevention is everything. All the medical care, therapy, and support in the world couldn't undo what happened that day. The only thing that could have helped was prevention. Please be proactive about your children's safety. Don't wait for something bad to happen before taking precautions. I know the chances of Ben ever hearing this are minimal. He's probably still hiding somewhere, still running from what he did. But if somehow this reaches you, Ben, here's what I want to say. You destroyed lives. Not just mine and Amora's, but 53 families. 2 children are gone forever because of you. Dozens of children will live with medical problems for the rest of their lives because of you. Families are financially ruined because of you. Marriages were strained, some broken. Childhoods were stolen. Innocence was shattered. And you ran away. You didn't even have the courage to face what you did, to apologize, to try to make amends, to at least witness the consequences of your actions. You just ran like a coward. I hope you think about this every day. I hope those children's faces haunt your dreams the way they haunt mine. I hope you can never escape what you did, no matter how far you run. Your own son died because of you. Chidi. Your 3-year-old son. Do you even know that? Does it keep you awake at night? Or have you found ways to justify it to yourself, to minimize it, to pretend it wasn't really your fault? I want you to know that we are still here, still dealing with the aftermath of your selfishness. 3 years later, we are still paying medical bills. Our children are still taking medication. We are still in therapy. We still have nightmares. The pain you caused didn't end when you ran away, it continued and continues still. I don't forgive you. I probably never will. But I do hope that someday, somehow, you face justice. Whether in this life or the next, I believe you will have to account for what you did. On the night Amara was admitted to the hospital, when I didn't know if she would survive, I made her a promise. I whispered it to her while she was unconscious, tubes and wires connecting her small body to machines. If you come back to me, if you survive this, I promise I will never let anyone hurt you like this again. I will protect you with everything I have. I will be the mother you need me to be, strong, vigilant, unwavering. I will make sure your life is full of joy and safety and love, even if I have to fight the whole world to give that to you. She survived, and I've kept that promise. Maybe I'm overprotective now. Maybe I'm too cautious, too controlling, too fearful. But I'd rather be all of those things than face another night like that one, another week like that one, another year like that one. Amora is alive. She's striving as much as she can within her limitations. She's loved, protected, supported. She knows, without any doubt, that she is the most important thing in my life and that I will always, always fight for her. That's all any mother can do really, love fiercely and protect relentlessly. It's been 3 years since the birthday party that changed everything. 3 years of recovery, therapy, medical appointments, legal frustrations, financial stress, and emotional healing. We are not the same people we were before. How could we be? Trauma changes you fundamentally. It rearranges your priorities, shifts your perspective, rewrites your understanding of what's important. Before the incident, I worried about normal things, whether Amora was eating enough vegetables, whether her grades were good enough, whether she was making enough friends, whether we were saving enough money for her future. Now, I'm just grateful she's alive. Everything else is secondary. I've learned that life is fragile and precious and can change in an instant. I've learned that safety is never guaranteed, that terrible things happen to good people, that the world is more dangerous and unpredictable than I wanted to believe. But I've also learned that we are stronger than we think we are. That we can survive things we thought would destroy us. That love, fierce, protective, unbreakable love, can carry us through the darkest times. Amora is not the carefree 7-year-old she was before that March day in 2022. I'm not the relaxed, trusting mother I was before. We've both been marked by this experience, scarred by it, changed by it. But we're here. We are together. We are finding ways to build a good life despite everything. And that has to be enough. To everyone listening this, hug your children. Protect them fiercely. Question everything. Trust your instincts. Be present. Be vigilant. Because in one afternoon, in one moment of carelessness, everything can change. Don't let what happened to us happen to you. My name is Chinyo. My daughter, Amora, survived the birthday party from hell. Many children did. 2 didn't. And the man who caused it all is still out there somewhere, free, while we live with the consequences of his actions every single day. Think about that the next time you receive a birthday party invitation. Think about it when you decide whether to stay or leave. Think about it when you're planning a party of your own. Your children's safety is in your hands. Guard it carefully. Because once it's stolen, you can never get it back completely. You can only move forward, changed forever, carrying the scars of what was lost. 3 years later, we are still moving forward. Some days are harder than others. But we're here, and we're together, and we're fighting to reclaim the joy that was stolen from us. That's our story. That's our truth. And if sharing it helps even one family avoid a similar tragedy, then perhaps some meaning can come from all this pain. Stay vigilant. Stay safe. And hold your children close.